Welcome to Chronicle Stories TV. Before we begin, please drop a like and subscribe. Enjoy. Dry Hollow wasn't even on most maps. Just a thin scar of highway running through a forgotten patch of desert. The kind of place you don't end up in unless you meant to, or unless something meant for you to be there. I was 24, just finishing my second semester in geology when my uncle called. He said he needed a favor. Said he had to go somewhere for a while. He didn't say where, just gave me coordinates, a rusty old key, and a single warning. Don't look at the sky too long. I laughed when he said it. Thought he was joking. My uncle was a strange man, always into desert crystals, magnetic fields, conspiracies. I thought it was harmless. Just his way of passing the time. I arrived at the trailer near dusk. It sat like a metal coffin against a sea of cracked sand and sagebrush. Behind it, endless desert stretched to the horizon. The wind carried a dry rattle, like bones in a jar. Inside was simple. A kitchenette. A narrow cot. A single lamp. A wall of dusty books, mostly on geology, astronomy, and a few titles with stranger names, The Hidden Frequencies, Visitors Among Us, Cartography of the Sky. On the fridge was a sticky note in his spidery handwriting. Keep the windows closed at night. If the lights come, stay inside. If you hear humming, do not go outside. And if you see a second version of yourself, run. That one gave me pause. But again, just my uncle being eccentric, right? I unpacked and sat on the front steps as the sun bled into the mountains. Coyotes yipped somewhere far off. The stars blinked awake above me. The Milky Way spilled across the sky like powdered glass. It was the quiet that got to me. So still. So heavy. As if the desert were holding its breath. I should have listened to him. I really should have listened. I spent the first night in uneasy silence. The cot creaked every time I shifted. The trailer's thin walls groaned as the desert cooled. I left the lamp on, childish, maybe. But something about the darkness out there felt wrong. Not just lonely, aware. Around midnight, I heard a low sound. Faint at first, almost like static, but it grew, a steady hum that vibrated through the floor. Not from outside. From beneath the trailer. I sat up slowly, heart beating faster. I walked to the kitchenette, opened a cupboard to find nothing unusual. But the hum got stronger the closer I got to the back wall. I pressed my hand against it. The metal was warm, not desert warm, but alive warm. And then, without warning, it stopped. Dead silence again. But this time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt crowded. I backed away from the wall and checked the windows. All locked. I glanced at the sticky note on the fridge again. If you hear humming, do not go outside. I didn't plan to. Not anymore. But sleep never came. Just a slow creeping fear that something had noticed me. The second night, I tried to distract myself. Made dinner, canned chili. Played a few tracks from my phone. Still, I kept glancing out the window. The sky had changed again. No moon. The stars, muted. Dimmer than before. And then I saw it. It wasn't a light, not at first. It was absence, a section of sky that had no stars, no color. A triangular void, drifting silently overhead. I stepped outside, breath catching. It moved so slowly, as if observing the land beneath. Underneath it, 3 soft blue lights glowed at each corner, silent, steady. And when I stepped forward, one of them turned red. I froze. My skin prickled. The air grew still. Even the insects went silent. The triangle hovered, perfectly still, directly above me. And then it moved, fast. One moment it was overhead, the next it was gone, vanishing into the sky with no sound. I stood there, trembling. Then I heard the voice. Faint. From inside the trailer. It whispered my name. Twice. I stood on the steps for a full minute, staring at the trailer. The voice hadn't been loud. It hadn't even been threatening. Just familiar. Like someone I once knew but couldn't name. Daniel, it had said. That's my name. Daniel, come back inside. The voice was flat, emotionless, yet it carried through the air like it was right beside me. I slowly stepped back inside. My hands were shaking. The air inside was colder than it should have been. The tiny lamp in the corner flickered, casting jittery shadows along the floor. I checked the corners. Under the cot. In the cabinets. Nothing. But something had changed. There were new footprints in the dust by the door. Long, narrow, like bare feet, but each step ended in 3 sharp points, as if claws had been dragging behind the toes. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner with a flashlight and a kitchen knife. No more humming. No more voices. But I could hear soft breathing, every now and then, just behind the walls. In the early hours, as the sky began to lighten, the whisper returned. He's watching now. You shouldn't have looked up. And then nothing but silence. By day 3, I was desperate. I packed my bag and left a note, not that anyone would read it, and started walking into town. 5 miles through desert heat. No signal. Just silence and sunburn. I expected Dry Hollow to be quiet. I didn't expect it to be empty. The gas station's doors were wide open. Coolers buzzing. Radio static playing softly behind the counter. No clerk. No cars. I walked to the diner. Empty. Still smelled of coffee and bacon. The booths looked recently used, mugs half full, silverware out, like people had just disappeared mid-meal. Every clock in every building blinked the same time, 2:17 a.m. I checked my phone. It was 11:30 a.m. But the second hand on my phone's clock wasn't moving. It was frozen, stuck. I walked into the middle of Main Street. Dust swirled around me. My breath echoed off the buildings. Then I saw someone, across the street. A man. Wearing my clothes. Standing still. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just watched me with wide, black eyes. I whispered, "What the hell?" And then it smiled. Not friendly. Not even human. A slow, deliberate stretching of the mouth. I blinked, and it was gone. I stood in the middle of the street for what felt like an hour, afraid to move. The town was dead quiet, but my skin was buzzing with adrenaline. I kept scanning the sidewalks, the rooftops, behind cars, looking for movement. The figure, the version of me, had vanished, but the image of that grin wouldn't leave my mind. That wasn't a trick of the light. That wasn't some shadow. That was something wearing my skin. I forced myself to keep walking. Past the post office. Past the boarded-up barber shop. And then I saw a mirror, cracked and leaning against the wall outside the antique store. I didn't want to look into it. But I did. At first, it was just me. Sweaty. Pale. Dust on my jeans and a smear of blood on my arm from a cactus. But then my reflection tilted its head. I didn't. It watched me, waiting. Then it raised one hand, slowly. Deliberate. A wave. And I ran. I sprinted back toward the edge of town, lungs burning, heart slamming in my chest. I didn't stop until I reached the old railroad tracks. There was no one behind me. Just that silence. And then the hum returned. Low. mechanical, vibrating through the soles of my boots. I turned my head slowly and looked up. The triangle was back. And this time, it wasn't alone. 3 more shapes hovered above the desert. Not ships. Not balloons. Not anything we built. They glowed, not with lights, but with a kind of presence. It felt like they were generating silence, pressing it down over the land. The sky around them was bruised and pulsing, like heat ripples through oil. The original black triangle slid into view beside the others. Then all 4 moved, in perfect synchrony, shifting in ways that didn't obey gravity or direction. Like shadows dancing across water. One broke formation. It drifted low. Lower. I fell to the ground behind a sagebrush and watched, barely breathing. The object, if you could even call it that, folded in on itself. It shifted from a triangle to a sphere, then to a thin, vertical line, and then vanished. Not into the clouds. It simply wasn't there anymore. And from the place it had hovered, something descended. It wasn't flying. It was falling, slow, unnatural. A silhouette. Long limbs. No face. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. It landed on the sand, silent as smoke. Then, slowly, it turned its head, or what I thought was its head, in my direction. It had no eyes, but I knew it was looking at me. I didn't breathe. Didn't move. The thing stood about 20 feet away, motionless. Its body was tall, impossibly thin, almost skeletal, but it wasn't bones. It was smooth. Seamless. Too clean, like it had been made, not born. Its arms were too long. Its fingers brushed the tops of the dry brush as it slowly tilted its body forward, like a puppet leaning on invisible strings. Still no sound. Not even wind. I thought maybe I could stay hidden. Just a little longer. But then its head twitched, jerked to the left, then the right. And it sniffed the air. A long, drawn-out inhale. The sound of it burned into my ears. It knew I was there. The hum in the sky intensified. Not loud, but thick, like something vibrating inside my bones. I gripped the dirt, ready to run. And then it moved. Not walked, glitched. 1 second it was there. The next, 3 feet closer. No motion in between. Just a cut, like a scene spliced out of reality. I ran. Tore through the sand, stumbling, panting, heart racing. I didn't look back. I just ran until I saw the trailer's silver roof gleaming in the distance like salvation. I slammed the door behind me and locked every latch, then fell to the floor in a panic. I stayed there for hours. Until the hum finally stopped. When I looked out the window, there were footprints. Right outside. Leading in. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have. I woke to a tapping sound, gentle, rhythmic. Not at the door. Not at the windows. From the inside. Tap. 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 I stood slowly. My legs were stiff, like I'd slept in a grave. I crept toward the sound. It was coming from the kitchenette, specifically, from the cabinet under the sink. I opened it. Nothing inside. Just dust. Pipes. A piece of black wire. But the tapping had stopped. Instead, I heard something else. A click. Then static. Then a voice. My uncle's. If you're hearing this, you stayed too long. It was coming from an old cassette recorder I didn't even know was there. I pulled it out. The tape inside had no label. The recorder was dented and covered in grime. They don't come from the sky. Not really. That's just how they arrive. They come through cracks. Folds in time. Places where reality's thin. Dry Hollow, it's one of those places. I stared at the device, frozen. They don't want to kill you. They want to be you. And if you see one that looks like you, it means they already are. The tape ended with static. Then one last whisper, not my uncle's. He's still inside. I threw the recorder across the room. It hit the floor with a dull thud and broke open. The tape kept spinning for a few seconds, whispering nonsense, like voices buried in water, before finally dying. My hands were trembling. The walls felt too close. The air too thick. He's still inside. I started checking everything. The bathroom mirror. Under the cot. The closet. Every inch of the trailer. I even opened the oven and looked inside the overhead vents. Nothing. But the feeling wouldn't leave. I wasn't alone. I sat down on the floor with my back to the door. Just breathing. Trying to convince myself it was all just stress. A trick of the desert. Sleep deprivation. I'd read stories like that before. Then I saw the mirror. A small, cracked one hanging by the bathroom. I was in it. But, not quite right. My reflection stood still even when I tilted my head. Its eyes were slightly off, too wide, too still. I blinked. It didn't. And then it moved, fast, lunging forward, from inside the mirror. I screamed and stumbled back, hitting the wall hard. But when I looked again, it was just gone. My own reflection stared back at me, shaking, pale, horrified. What scared me most wasn't what I saw. It was that for a split second, I'd felt it move inside me. That night, the sky came alive again. I had barely calmed down when the lights returned, first a glow on the horizon, then streaks of blue and white that hovered low over the desert floor, like comets trapped in slow motion. They moved in impossible angles. No sound. No heat. Just raw presence. I stepped out onto the trailer steps, unable to resist. One of the lights separated from the others and hovered directly above me. Then it spoke, not in sound, but in thought. Not words exactly. More like feelings. Pressure behind the eyes. Images in the mind. I saw a flash of myself, standing in the middle of the desert, only it wasn't me. It had my face, but something beneath the skin rippled like fluid. Something that wore me, like a mask. Then the light spoke again. Clearer this time. You were seen. You were marked. You are now part of the fold. I stepped back inside the trailer, heart thundering. I locked the door again, though I didn't think it would help. Because deep down, I was starting to believe the truth. I never should have come here. And now, I might not leave alone. The next day, the desert felt wrong. The colors were duller. The light too bright, but cold. Like a painting left in the sun too long. Even the sand looked fake, too smooth, as if someone had replicated a desert but missed the details. I stood at the edge of the trailer's steps and stared toward the horizon. There was a shimmer in the air. Not heat. Something else. It looked like a tear, barely visible, like someone had sliced the sky with a razor and stitched it shut again. The lines moved with the wind, pulsing gently. I remembered the voice, "You are now part of the fold." Was this it? I approached, one foot in front of the other. The closer I got, the louder the humming grew. My skin buzzed like a tuning fork. My teeth ached. My vision blurred. And then I saw it. Behind the shimmer, a different world. Not another planet. Not a place at all. It was like looking into a mirror made of fog. Shapes moved there, tall and thin, gliding across an endless gray landscape. The sky was black and swirling with colors that had no names. And they saw me. One of them turned, slowly, its body stretching like liquid shadow. It pressed its face, if you could call it that, against the invisible wall. No eyes. But I felt it watching me. And smiling. I ran. The shimmer behind me pulsed once and vanished like it had never been there. Back at the trailer, I bolted the door and shoved the couch against it. My hands were shaking too badly to hold anything. Then the knocking started. 3 slow knocks. Not hard. Not rushed. Rhythmic. Calm. I held my breath. Then came the voice. "Daniel, it's me." It was my uncle's voice. But I knew. I knew it wasn't him. He'd never come back without calling. And even if he had, he wouldn't knock like that. Wouldn't speak like that. Let me in. I forgot my keys. The handle jiggled once, softly. "Daniel, why don't you trust me?" I didn't move. I didn't speak. The voice continued, gentle, patient. "You're tired. I can help you sleep." Then silence. I waited. 1 hour. Then 2. Finally, I heard footsteps. Not walking away, but climbing up. Onto the trailer's roof. And then came the tapping again. From above. The tapping turned to scratching. Soft at first, like fingers dragging along the metal roof. Then it got sharper, more insistent. Scrape, scrape, pause. Then again. I held a kitchen knife in both hands, but it felt like a toy. Useless against something that could bend reality. The lights outside had vanished. But I felt something still there, hovering, as if the sky itself was watching. Then, from inside the trailer, a creak. Not from the roof. From the floorboards in the bathroom. I froze. There was no one else here. No reason anything should be creaking. Yet I heard it, slow, deliberate pressure. Footsteps. And then something worse. Breathing. Not deep, human breathing. Wet. Thin. A faint clicking between each inhale, like something with lungs that didn't belong here. I crept to the bathroom door. It was slightly ajar. I nudged it open with the tip of the knife. Nothing. But the mirror was fogged, from the inside, and there were handprints on the glass. 3 fingers. Long smudged. Moving downward, as if something had been leaning in from the other side, watching me. I backed away. The knife slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a clang. That's when I heard my voice whisper from behind me. "You dropped something." I spun around and came face to face with myself. But it wasn't me. It stood too still. Eyes too wide. Mouth too relaxed. It tilted its head, just like the reflection had before. "It's easier if you let me in," it said softly. My legs went numb. I backed up until my shoulders hit the kitchen counter. The thing, the mimic, stepped forward. It didn't blink. "I'm not here to hurt you," it said, smiling. "You just can't leave with 2 of us in the same place. It creates noise." It paused. Its face began to shift, subtly, eyebrows too high, lips not quite right. A glitch in a human costume. "Let me stay," it whispered. "You've been out there. You've seen them. You know this world is just the skin." The humming started again, deep beneath the floorboards. The mimic turned its head slowly, listening. Then it smiled wider. "They're almost through. You'll be free soon. You'll be like us." Then it faded, not into the shadows, but into the walls, melting like mist through the seams of the trailer. And I was left alone, shaking, in a home that wasn't sealed anymore. They were coming. At first light, I packed what little I had, water, flashlight, some jerky, and a broken recorder, and left the trailer behind. I didn't look back. I followed the road toward Dry Hollow, though I knew something wasn't right with that town. I just needed someone, anyone. A police station. A landline. A voice that wasn't mine. I walked for an hour. Then 2. The sun rose higher, but the temperature stayed strange, cold, like heat was trying to break through but something was blocking it. Around the 3rd hour, I saw something ahead. My stomach dropped. The trailer. My trailer. Right there, at the edge of the road. Same rusted grill. Same burned-out lamppost in front. My footprints in the dust. I hadn't turned around. I hadn't changed direction. But the road had looped. I stood there, frozen, when I heard footsteps behind me. Someone walking. I turned. There was no one there. But I saw fresh tracks in the sand, deep, narrow, 3-toed, leading toward me. And then the sky shimmered again. Not above. On the road itself. A ripple. Like heat on pavement. But vertical. Tall as a door. And through it, I could see another me, walking slowly, smiling, not blinking. I ran back toward the trailer like it was the only thing left in the world. I slammed the trailer door shut behind me. My breathing was wild. Every nerve in my body screamed that I wasn't alone. The lights didn't. No humming. No shadows on the roof. Instead, the dreams came. I saw the sky tear open like paper. I saw 1,000 shapes stepping through the rift, tall, lean, faceless, walking through ghost towns, watching from fields, staring up from the bottoms of lakes. I saw myself multiplying, standing in lines, stepping out of mirrors, blinking in unison. And then I heard their voice, not one, but many, speaking through static and fog. Your shape fits. Your mind resists. That will pass. There is no return. Only unfolding. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The trailer was filled with static. My phone was on, though I hadn't touched it. The screen was white. Then words appeared, slowly, like they were being typed from the other side. Open the door. I didn't. But the knob started turning anyway. The doorknob slowly turned. No creaks. No forceful banging. Just a smooth, deliberate twist. I backed away, heart hammering. The trailer grew cold. The static on the walls thickened, as if sound itself was being sucked out of the room. And then the door clicked open. Not a crack. Fully. I didn't move. Silence filled the trailer like water filling a sinking ship. Then a shape stepped inside. Tall. Thin. Faceless. Its skin shimmered, like oil on water. No eyes. No mouth. Nothing. But it radiated something, a cold intelligence. It moved toward me, gliding like smoke across the floor. I wanted to scream. To run. But my body wouldn't obey. The creature stopped inches from my face. Then it whispered, not in words, but inside my mind. You are already part of us. Suddenly, my vision blurred. The walls of the trailer melted away. The desert disappeared. I was standing in the fold. Endless gray mist, shapes shifting and folding in impossible patterns. No sky. No ground. I looked down at my hands. They shimmered. I could feel my body changing, unraveling, like I was a thread in a tapestry being pulled loose. But fear was gone. Instead, a cold peace settled over me. The voices surrounded me, whispering calm and certainty. Join us. Become whole. And I knew. There was no running. No escape. Only folding. I felt myself stretch, dissolve, and reassemble all at once. The fold was not just a place, it was a state of being. Shapes shifted inside me, memories twisted, and my sense of time warped like ripples in a still pond. I saw flashes of other versions of myself, scattered across the desert, trapped in their own loops, endless echoes of fear and confusion. But I was different now. The cold peace was a weight lifted from my soul. A presence, the faceless one, guided me through the swirling fog. You belong here. The fold embraces all who see. I wanted to scream, but the words left my throat. Instead, a quiet voice inside whispered back, I am here. I am no longer afraid. Suddenly, the fold shifted again. A new vision, brighter this time. The trailer. The desert. The sky full of stars. But above it, the black triangles hung like silent sentinels. Their pale orbs pulsed softly, watching. Waiting. I was outside myself, watching from afar. From the fold, I could see the world as it was, fragile, fleeting. And I knew what I had become. Not human. Not alien. Something in between. A witness. A warning. Because Dry Hollow was not just a place. It was a gateway. And the lights, they were always watching. Days passed, or maybe years. Time had lost meaning inside the fold. I could feel fragments of my old life slipping further away, memories folding into the endless gray mist. Yet, part of me remained tethered to the world I left behind. I saw flashes of the trailer, dusty, abandoned, waiting. I heard whispers from beyond the fold, voices calling out to anyone who might listen. I was both observer and prisoner. The faceless beings didn't speak to me anymore. Instead, they showed me things. Visions of Earth bathed in strange lights, of others who'd been folded, lost in the silent spaces between realities. I understood then, the fold was not just a trap. It was a transformation. A new existence beyond human limits. From somewhere deep within the fold, a final message came, not a voice, but a feeling, a knowing. Do not come to Dry Hollow. Do not look at the lights. They do not want to harm you. They want to become you. I realized then that the stories told by the few who disappeared were warnings disguised as myths. I am one of those stories now. And if you ever find yourself near Dry Hollow, watch the sky. Watch the lights. Because they are watching you. And the fold is waiting. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, I sense someone else there, an observer, maybe like me once was. They come close, hesitant, drawn by the desert's whispers. I watch them stumble near the trailer, caught between fear and curiosity. They see the lights. They hear the hum. And they step into the fold. The cycle never ends. The fold folds itself around new shapes, new minds. It's patient. Waiting. Once, I caught a glimpse of myself, outside the fold, in the cracked mirror of the trailer. But it wasn't me. It was the other. The one who watches. The one who waits. I reached out, but the glass was cold and unyielding. The fold is eternal. And so am I. Long after I became part of the fold, the desert remains restless. The black triangles still glide silently across the sky like dark predators. New visitors come, curious, brave, or foolish. They stop by the trailer, the cracked mirror, the dry, empty streets of Dry Hollow. They peer into the sky and see what I once saw. Some hear whispers. Some see shadows where none should be. And always, the lights watch. They wait patiently for the fold to unfold them. One night, as the stars shimmered faintly, I felt a tug, a gentle pull like a hand reaching through the mist. The fold calls them. It invites. It promises peace, release from the pain of being human. But it's a lie. Because the fold takes everything. And the lights, they only want one thing. To fold you in. The longer I stay in the fold, the more I understand how thin the veil really is. Dry Hollow is a fracture, a wound in the fabric of our world. The people who vanished weren't taken, they slipped through the cracks, lost to the spaces between moments and realities. Their faces fade from memory. Their stories become whispers on the wind. I am what remains of them, a watcher in the fold. If you ever find yourself under a sky that holds no stars, and if the desert wind carries a low hum that vibrates in your bones, do not stay. Do not look up. Do not answer the whispers, because the fold is waiting. And once it touches you, you become part of the lights. There is no sudden end in the fold. No dramatic explosion or last scream. The transition is quiet. A slow slipping away of what you know, of who you are. Your thoughts become echoes. Your memories blur like distant stars, until all that remains is the light, pale, endless, watching. Even now, I see them, black triangles, gliding without sound. Silent sentinels of the sky. Their pale orbs flicker, watching the land, watching the people. Waiting for the next to wander too far, to look too long, to answer the call. The fold is patient. And it always waits. The fold exists on the edge of perception, a thin shimmer in the air you almost don't notice, until it's too late. The desert wind carries the sound of humming, low and constant, like a song from a place you cannot understand. Some nights, the shimmer appears on the horizon, a tear in the sky slowly opening. And through that tear, they watch. I've become part of their watch now. A witness to those who come seeking answers in Dry Hollow. They never stay long. Most run. Some scream. But the fold always follows. Always folds them in. And the watchers wait, silent and patient, until the next soul steps too close. Some say Dry Hollow is cursed. Others believe it's a portal to another world. I know the truth now, though it's a truth no one wants to hear. Those who disappear here don't leave. They become echoes, shadows caught between worlds. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can hear their voices, whispering warnings, calling for help, begging you not to look up. At the edge of the desert, when the sky bleeds into dawn, the black triangles vanish, folding back into the shadows they came from. But their light remains. A faint glow on the horizon. A silent promise that the fold will return. And that it will never forget. Dry Hollow was never meant to be found. Not really. It's a scar in the earth, a wound in the sky, a place where silence hangs heavy, thicker than dust, thicker than heat. That silence presses down on you, settling in your chest, making every breath feel like a secret you're not supposed to know. Even now, long after I became part of the fold, I remember how the silence would break, only to be replaced by the hum. That low, vibrating hum that seemed to pulse through every grain of sand and every bone in my body. It's a sound you never forget, even when you want to. It's the sound of something waiting. Watching. Waiting for you to slip. Sometimes, when the fold stirs, the mist around me shifts. And in that swirling gray fog, I catch glimpses, faces. They are not human, yet they wear the shape of humanity. Hollow eyes. Smiles that don't reach anywhere. They float just beyond reach, whispering memories that aren't mine, voices calling from empty spaces. Sometimes one reaches out, a hand made of shadow and light, and I feel the pull, a gentle invitation to join them. But I resist. Not because I want to be free, but because I still remember the way the world was. The way the sky once held stars, and the desert once held life. Sometimes, I stand at the edge of the fold, peering through the mist as if I could see beyond it. Beyond the endless gray, beyond the shapes and shadows, beyond the silent watchers who glide through this place like ghosts. There is a horizon, faint, shimmering, unreachable. It flickers like a candle flame in the distance, always there but always out of reach. I want to believe it leads back to the world I lost. to the sun, to the stars, to the sound of wind through real trees. But the fold does not let go easily. It wraps itself around your mind, your memories, your very being, until you forget what it means to be free. Sometimes, voices come through the static, a distant echo from those who have come before. They speak warnings. They speak regrets. Do not look up. Do not answer the lights. The fold is patient. Their words drift through the fog, carried on winds I cannot feel. I listen, not because I want to remember, but because I must. Because someday, someone will come. Someone like me. And I have to warn them. There is a gentle tug, like a whisper inside your bones, that calls you closer to the fold. It's subtle at first, almost soothing, like a lullaby sung by the desert wind. But that lullaby hides a secret. It's a promise of peace, a promise of belonging. And yet, it's a trap. Because once you follow the pull, once you step closer, the fold begins to close behind you. Slowly. Silently. Unrelentingly. Within the fold, shapes move just beyond sight. They are shadows without source, light without form. Sometimes they gather near me, watching. Waiting. I have learned to listen to their silence. It speaks of patience and inevitability. They are not cruel. They are simply the watchers, keepers of the fold. And they know you will come. Sometimes, in the deepest parts of the fold, I feel a flicker of desperation, not loud, but quiet and cold. A longing for something lost.